Michael Weatherly is one of the most interesting and complicated figures in the history of American network television. And I honestly don't think you can understand why his return to NCIS Season 24 hits the way it does without understanding the full story of how he got there. Because this is not a simple comeback. This is a man who spent 57 years building a career that includes a legendary TV role, a failed marriage to a soap opera co-star, an engagement to one of Hollywood's biggest stars, a second marriage to a doctor he met in a bar in Vancouver, a harassment scandal that cost CBS $9.5 million, a DUI arrest, a spin-off that got canceled, and a 6-word Instagram video that broke the internet 2 weeks ago. Let's go through all of it. From the beginning, Michael Weatherly Jr. was born on July 8, 1968 in New York City. He grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut, attended a string of universities, Boston University, American University, Menlo College, and made the decision that virtually every acting career begins with. He dropped out, left campus, and went to New York to figure it out. For a while, figuring it out meant waiting tables and busking on the subway, not as a story he'd tell later, as an actual way to pay rent while going to auditions and hoping something stuck. Something stuck in 1991. He appeared on The Cosby Show in Season 7, playing Theo Huxtable's roommate, in an episode called Theo's Final Final. One episode, one appearance. But it put him in a room and on a screen, and for someone building from nothing that matters enormously. The following year, he landed his first recurring role on the daytime soap Loving and its sequel series, The City, as Cooper Alden. And on that soap opera, he met Amelia Heinle, his co-star, and briefly his wife. They married in 1995, had a son named August in 1996, and divorced in 1997. 2 years. Over before most people had even noticed it started. He moved through the late 90s doing guest appearances. Charmed, Significant Others, the kinds of credits that keep you working without yet making you a name. And then in 2000, Fox cast him in Dark Angel opposite a then-unknown actress named Jessica Alba. And everything changed. Dark Angel ran from 2000 to 2002. Alba played Max Guevara, a genetically enhanced super soldier in a dystopian Seattle. Weatherly played Logan Kale, the hacker journalist she worked alongside. And somewhere in those 2 seasons, a real relationship formed between the 2 actors. They got engaged. He was 32 when the show started. She was 19. The age gap was significant, the circumstances were intense, and the engagement ultimately did not hold. They broke it off. Dark Angel was canceled in 2002. And Weatherly found himself once again at the beginning of the next chapter. That next chapter turned out to be the most important one of his life. In 2003, NCIS was being developed at CBS, and the creative team needed a 2-episode backdoor pilot to air on the military courtroom drama JAG First. The episodes were called Ice Queen and Meltdown. Weatherly was cast as Special Agent Anthony Dinozzo alongside Mark Harmon as Leroy Jethro Gibbs. And that chemistry test in 2 JAG episodes launched one of the longest running roles any actor has held in the history of American broadcast television. 13 seasons. Over 300 episodes. Tony Dinozzo. The wisecracking, movie referencing, deeply loyal senior field agent who used humor as armor and made every single person in that bullpen feel things they hadn't expected a procedural drama to make them feel. Weatherly built that character from a fairly broad archetype in the pilot into someone with genuine emotional layers by the time the show was in its 6th and 7th seasons. And the audience responded in a way that made NCIS the most watched drama in the world at its peak. A fact that sounds like exaggeration until you look at the numbers and realize it actually is not. But the road inside that building was not always smooth. Weatherly and Mark Harmon clashed. Not publicly, not in any way the audience was meant to see, but significantly enough that Weatherly was still talking about it years after he left. He told the Futon Critic in 2020, "Mark Harmon and I were on different poles. I was Antarctica, he was the North Pole, and we were just looking down there going, what is up with your polarity?" He said Harmon was confused by my presence right from the get-go. At the CBS upfronts when NCIS was first being presented to press, a reporter asked what the best part of doing the pilot was. Harmon gave a serious, professional answer. Weatherly said, "I got a rubber gun and I got a fake badge." Two completely different readings of what this job required, and they had to find a way to exist inside that same building for 13 years. They did, and interestingly, it was Weatherly's own experience becoming a showrunner lead on Bull that gave him a belated appreciation for how Harmon had been approaching the job all along. He said, "It's been very illuminating and given me a great deal of insight and regard for what Mark Harmon was doing all those years. When I was like, how come he doesn't have as much fun as the rest of us?" The distance gave him the perspective he could not have had while he was still at the desk next to him. And by the time both men had moved on and the world had changed around them, they'd patched it up. Meanwhile, off-screen, his personal life had continued evolving. After the divorce from Heinle and the broken engagement to Alba, he eventually found love with Bojana Yankovic, an award-winning doctor he met in a bar in Vancouver in 2007 while filming NCIS. He told People in 2010, "I kept looking out of the corner of my eye and seeing this ravishing, gorgeous beauty." They married in 2009. Their son, Liam Sebastian, was born in 2010. Their daughter, Olivia, was born on April 11th, 2012. And by 2016, when Weatherly made the decision to leave NCIS after season 13, he told People that a significant part of that decision was his children. "I think a lot about the kids and the time I get to spend with them now, at this age of 4 and 2.5, which is such a critical time." He told showrunner Stephen Binder directly that he was never going to do network television again. And then CBS handed him the lead of Bull, and he went back to network television almost immediately. Bull premiered in fall 2016. Weatherly played Dr. Jason Bull, a trial consultant whose character was loosely based on the early career of Dr. Phil McGraw. The show was a genuine hit. It ran for 6 seasons through 2022, and for 2 of those years, everything looked like the smoothest possible second act for a man who had spent 13 seasons as someone else's second banana and was now the undisputed center of his own show. And then 2017 arrived, and Eliza Dushku joined Bull as a recurring guest character with plans to become a series regular, a role described to her as a 6-year commitment, playing a smart, powerful lawyer written specifically with her in mind. And in her first week on set, she found herself, in her own words, the target of near-constant sexual harassment from her co-star. I want to be precise about what Dushku actually alleged, because I think the vague language that sometimes surrounds this story does a disservice to what actually happened. She testified before a House Judiciary Committee in 2021, free of the NDA that had previously silenced her, and what she described was specific. She said Weatherly called her legs, talked about his sperm, made comments about spanking her over his knee, solicited a threesome, made a reference to a rape van. Crude, sexualized, lewd verbal statements delivered to a co-star and colleague in a professional workspace during her first week on the job. She told him his comments made her uncomfortable. She was subsequently fired, and it emerged that Weatherly was not merely an actor on Bull. He was also a producer. The person with the power to have her removed was the same person whose behavior she had reported. CBS settled with Dushku for $9.5 million in December 2018. And Weatherly issued an apology that Dushku herself described as more deflection, denial, and spin. He said he had been mocking some lines in the script, and that when she told him she was uncomfortable, he was mortified and immediately apologized. He said he now understood that what he said was both not funny and not appropriate. He did not address the full scope of the specific allegations. And Dushku said publicly that by speaking to the press about it at all, he had broken the terms of their settlement. In 2019, two things happened. In August, it was reported that both Weatherly and the show's showrunner Glenn Gordon Caron were undergoing leadership training as a consequence of the settlement. And separately, Weatherly was arrested for DUI in Hollywood, a year that compounded consequences in a way that, for many people, would have been career-ending. For Weatherly, the show continued. Bull kept running through 2022. He remained the lead for all 6 seasons. And in the years since the settlement, Eliza Dushku has not worked in Hollywood. The actress who played Faith on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who appeared in Bring It On and True Lies, who was promised a 6-year role on a CBS drama, she left. She became a mental health professional. The career pivot could not be more complete. And the contrast between where she landed and where he landed is something I honestly think this story requires you to sit with rather than gloss over. At the same time, when Polly Perrette and Sasha Alexander, two of Weatherly's closest former NCIS colleagues, tweeted in his support following the allegations, it complicated a simple narrative. People who had worked with him for over a decade vouching for him does not erase what Dushku described. It does not resolve the contradiction. It just confirms that the same person can be a generous colleague to some people and the source of genuine harm to others. Both things can be simultaneously true. And I think the most honest way to tell this story is to hold both of them at the same time without letting one cancel the other. Bull ended in 2022. Weatherly had a brief cameo on NCIS in 2024, Testing the Water, and then in fall 2025, NCIS. Tony and Ziva premiered on Paramount+. The long-awaited reunion of Tony DiNozzo and Ziva David that the fandom had been asking for since the season 11 twist that apparently killed Ziva and the eventual revelation in season 17 that she was alive after all. The spin-off gave Tony and Ziva the life together fans had spent 15 years imagining, and then Paramount Plus canceled it after 1 season. No second season, no movie. Just done. And Tony DiNozzo and Ziva David's story was once again without a home, which brings us to July 1, 2026, and 6 words posted to NCIS's official Instagram account. I'll see you in the fall. Laughing. Casual. Like he had simply stepped out for a while and was letting you know he was on his way back. Variety confirmed the same day that Weatherly is set for a season-long arc in NCIS Season 24, reuniting him with a show and a team and an audience that never really stopped wanting him there. He is 57 years old. He has been playing Tony DiNozzo on and off since 2003, and the character he built from a broad archetype in a JAG backdoor pilot is about to walk back through those orange walls and into a building where everything has changed around the desk he used to sit at. Whether Ziva is walking in alongside him remains officially unconfirmed. Cote de Pablo's involvement has not been announced. And the specific shape of what Tony's role in season 24 looks like, including the increasingly compelling theory that he might be the one who finally fills the director's chair left empty by Vance's death, is something that fall is going to have to answer. NCIS Season 24 premieres this fall on CBS Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Every season of NCIS is streaming on Paramount Plus right now. And all the complications of who Michael Weatherly is, the career, the talent, the relationships, the controversy, the DUI, the apology that wasn't enough, the comeback that keeps happening, are going to be in that building with him when the cameras roll. Drop a comment and tell me, does knowing the full story of this man's career change how you feel about Tony DiNozzo coming back? And do you think he walks into that director's chair or into something else entirely? Because I honestly think the answer to that second question is the most interesting story NCIS has set up in years.